Hey, what's up, Clobear fam? So thank you so much for coming back to my channel. Today we have a very exciting guest, Xena Kai, who is a professional model on Instagram, but she is also in the personal finance field, and she just recently started a YouTube channel as well as an Instagram account to talk about personal finance. So once I started watching her YouTube content and followed each other on Instagram, I just knew I had to get her on my channel, and I also wanted to write a blog post on her. If you're new here, I'm Clobear, and this is my channel where I talk about pretty much everything that has to do with money, whether it's talking about my net worth and what I spend every month, or if it's talking about budgeting and 401ks and investing and things like that. Like I said, I'm so excited to bring on Xena Kai. So we'll dive right in, but before we do, be sure to hit that like button, be sure to hit subscribe, and be sure to hit the notification bell so that you know every time that I have a new video coming out. It helps me out a lot, and while you're at it, head on over to Xena Kai's page as well and give her a subscribe. You will not regret it. All right, so we are here today with Xena Kai, which I am super excited to have her on this channel. Xena, say hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm excited to be on Chloe's channel. I was born in Las Vegas and I currently live in Las Vegas. And when I turned 18, I moved to California because I wanted to be a model. And so I modeled for a little bit. I got on magazine covers and centerfolds. And then after a couple of years of doing that, I decided to go off to college. And I went to San Francisco for college. I studied computer science at a very expensive school that I paid for myself, and I'm still paying for, which got me into personal finance because when I graduated college, I had over $100,000 of debt. And from there, I realized that I am the only person that could dig myself out of this. And no one is going to help me from this. And I'm going to need to learn exactly what to do. And I had zero knowledge on personal finance. I didn't know how to budget because I've never budgeted before. I've never invested before either. And then from there, I became really passionate about personal finance because, okay, well, I was in a lot of debt and I still have debt today. And I learned all the statistics of how people in America have so much debt, credit card debt, student debt, auto loan debt, goes on. And I learned that, most Americans cannot retire. I'm like, wait, this is actually like bigger than just me. I'm not the only one in this financial situation. From there on, I was like, okay, well, I really want to like try to help people. How am I going to help people? And so I was like, well, the easiest thing that I could do to reach people is make videos on YouTube. And so now as a hobby, I make personal finance videos on my YouTube channel.
That is so awesome. I feel like that's something a lot of people can relate to, especially in our generation of just you get out of college with this degree and you're not even sure if the degree is worth the amount of money that you paid for it. And like I studied English and Spanish. I don't use it at all. And I think I went $80,000 in debt from it. And it's like, if I could go back to 18-year-old me, I'd be like, maybe just go into something else, maybe just start a business, maybe, just like go live your life for a little bit and then go back to school. But it's just our education system's so messed up.
Oh yeah, definitely. And then you don't really find out how big of a problem it is until you've dug yourself into that hole.
Yep. It's like whoever decided that it was a good idea for an 18-year-old to determine the rest of their life at 18. Yeah. I'm like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to start off my life with $100,000 in debt and maybe I'll use my degree or not. Do you use your degree?
No.
That's the crazy thing, isn't it?
I know. I should, so I should have gotten into the tech industry. When I graduated, I was interviewing at companies and I was like, wow, like I really don't want to work at these companies. And I felt like I would be wearing golden handcuffs the rest of my life. I was like, okay, well, I'll work at these companies because it's prestigious to have a software engineering job there. And I'll make good money and then I'll kind of be stuck doing this for the rest of my life. How am I going to pivot to like anything else?
Well, that's a perfect segue into, so you did pivot and you went into modeling instead. So tell me a little bit about what that decision was like to go from, like you said, the golden handcuffs of this guaranteed high paying position because of the industry you graduated into to, okay, I'm going to try out modeling, and then to eventually deciding, okay, in addition to modeling, I think I'm also going to do some personal finance stuff on the side.
Yeah, so I started modeling when I was a teenager. I was 19 when I got my first cover. From 19 until I think 22 or 23, that's when I did several magazines. And then I went off to college.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have the traditional, like, okay, go to college at 18. I went to college a couple of years later. I didn't want to work in the tech industry. I was like, okay, well, I really want to go back into like the modeling industry and like the social media industry because I really like social media. And I was like, well, I'll take a couple months off, right? I'll take maybe 6 months off from interviewing. I'll just model and do social media full time for a little bit. And then I'll go back to interviewing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I was like, yeah, I'll go back to interviewing at the end of the year. It'll be like completely fine. And yeah, I didn't go back.
That's kind of the dream though. You ended up just kind of stumbling your way into it sounds like. So then how did, from deciding, okay, I think I'm going to do this modeling, Instagram model full time, how did you then, like, what was, I guess, the journey from that to, I also want to start doing personal finance stuff?
So I don't remember what month it was. I think it was towards the end of 2019 because I graduated in May 2019. So towards that, like somewhere between like the summer to the end of 2019, I calculated how much debt I had. And that's when I found out it was over 100,000. I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm never going to get out of this. And so from there, I was like, okay, well, I need to learn what to do to get out of this, right? I need to learn. I was like, okay, how do people pay off debt? So then I went on YouTube and I was like, paying off debt, right? And then I saw some people, I saw debt-free journeys. So one debt-free journey I followed was Asia Dang's. And she had, I'm not sure if you're familiar with her, but she had, I think, over $250,000 of debt.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. She had so much. I was like, wow. And just like watching her was inspiring. I was like, okay, so she could do it. That means I could do it. And then I started watching more personal finance videos of like paying off debt. I was like, well, what's going to happen after I pay this off, right? I need to know how to invest because investing is crucial if I want to retire. I didn't know anything about it. And I'm like, okay, so how to invest? And then something about like, oh, what's a Roth IRA? I keep hearing these words, right? What is that? And so I Googled Roth IRA and watched videos on YouTube on it. I was like, oh, okay. So it's like this retirement account. I was like, okay, great. I wanted to be open about my student loans and my credit card debt and just my debt in general, my finances. And so I think the beginning of 2020, I made a video on my other YouTube channel that I upload vlogs on. And so I made a video on there. I did receive a lot of negative responses, but I also received positive responses, right? Because some people opened up to me about their debt.
Yeah.
And how they were struggling with their finances. And, some of the people that opened up to me, like I would have never guessed that they were having financial problems. And I'm like, wow, this is something. Right. I was like, this could be, I don't know what this is yet, but this could be like big. So from January, I still had that in my mind to make finance videos. But I'm like, oh, I don't know. It takes a lot of time. And like, do I really want to be as open? And I guess I was kind of scared of being judged because from my first one, I did get a lot of negative criticism. From June, I kept thinking about finance from January to June. I was like, okay, well, it's still in my mind. And, I feel like if I go all in on this, I could really help people. And it doesn't really matter how big my channel grows. And it doesn't matter how many viewers I want or how many viewers I get, as long as I'm able to help just like one person, like it'll be worth it. Personal finance is personal. What makes it good that there are more women coming into the space is that we all have our own experiences, right? So you and I, we had a lot of debt, and we had to pay off that debt, and I'm still paying off that debt. So we know exactly what to do in order to pay off debt, like the mental toll it takes, the emotional toll it takes on a person, which is, oh gosh, I just will never forget that feeling. We went through all of these experiences, but someone who is maybe, let's say a CFO or someone with certificates to actually give financial advice, what if they didn't go through those things?
Mm-hmm.
What if they never had money problems?
What would you say for you going from not knowing anything about money and having this realization, this oh shit moment of I'm $100,000 in debt, and going to where you are now 2 years later? Like, what has that emotional journey been like for you? Like, do you feel more empowered now? How do you address life differently? Like, are you able to make more risks or feel more confident in those kinds of decisions?
Oh gosh, so many things changed. I guess my relationship with money changed. So I don't see money the same way anymore. Before, I thought, okay, well, you need to make a lot of money so that you can spend money. I want to have the nicest car, the nicest shoes, like the nicest like brand name items, because that's rich. That's what rich people do. Now I just know, like, okay, well, if I don't spend this dollar, I could invest this dollar instead of spending it. And then I could get to a point where I don't have to ever worry about money again, which means that, that feeling I had when I found out how much debt I had, I'll never have that feeling about money ever again because I'm financially free. Yeah, so my view on money changed. I would like to say lifestyle also changed as well, because in the past I used to be like, okay, I'll go to the mall, okay, I'll buy this, and okay, yeah, this is, I'll wear this for I don't know how long I'll wear it just because it's cute, right? Let's say I used to find like a cute dress or a cute pair of heels and I'll buy it because I liked it that day. But now I don't do that anymore. Now I'm just like, okay, well, I have a budget, and I used to never budget, and I check my budget like weekly, sometimes multiple times a week. And then my goal for my budget is to have leftover money. And with that leftover money, I don't go shopping with it. I'd rather invest it into my investment account, or I'd rather put it in a sinking fund for the future.
Yeah, that's a huge mindset shift. Realizing that I could be debt free was the same thing that kind of like started the whole process for me. And I think that a lot of people start with I just want to be debt free. And then they start learning all the other things. They learn how to invest. They learn about retirement accounts. They learn about retiring early potentially. And it's it's almost like a light bulb going off in your brain when you understand investing and you understand what it takes and it's not actually that difficult, and it's something that you can actually do. The moment where you calculated all of your debt, was that kind of your light bulb moment where you're like, oh, I really need to make this shift? Or did that come later on when you started learning about investing?
When I calculated my debt, I felt helpless. I knew that just that very day, I didn't think I'd ever get out of it. And I felt like I was up against Goliath, and I'm like, okay, well, I don't think I'll ever get out of this. And so that day I actually cried. I think I cried almost all day because I was just so upset. And then I think it was like the next couple days where I'm like, okay, well, if I want to get out of this, then I have to do it myself. And what exactly do I do? What I said earlier, I used to watch people pay off their debt. And then that's when I'm like, okay, well, after that, then I have to learn how to invest. And I used to think in the past, I thought investing, in order to like invest, you had to have gone to Harvard, been like Warren Buffett, like the smartest person in order to know what companies to invest in. I thought it was more of like a gamble.
I think that's the same for most people. I don't think people think of investing as like something that everyone should be doing. Like it's like reserved for people who have money and know all the secrets of the stock market, when really it's simple.
Yeah, I think there's two reasons. I think I guess three. One, personal finance was never taught to us in schools. I guess the other one would be all the hedge fund managers and portfolio managers don't want people to know that it's easy.
Yep, totally agree.
Yeah, so that they get their fees, because even like a 1% fee is really expensive.
Oh, it eats away at it. And that's the thing, is once you realize that people benefit from you not understanding and they benefit from you never learning how to do it, it's like, everything, you realize, oh my gosh, this is all a setup. And like, I have to learn in order to take control over my own finances. So let's like take it back a little bit. What was money like for you growing up? And like, how was your experience with money growing up? Like, did your parents talk about it? Was it something that you really knew much about? Or was it kind of this like undercloak and like you kind of had to figure it out when you became an adult?
I didn't learn anything about money growing up. Here, I'll try not to get too into detail of my childhood, but I didn't have the best childhood. And my parents, I just remember they were bad with money, and they used to always argue about money. They didn't have a healthy relationship with money, and they didn't teach me anything about money. The only thing they taught me, and this isn't really about money, I guess the general, if you go to college and get a good job, then you'll be rich. Yeah, and that's as close to money lesson that they taught me. And so I always thought like, okay, well, if I, get a good job after college, then I'll make good money. And then I could spend money however I want.
How do you think the whole just not really ever having a conversation about money impacted how you handled? I combined handled and manage into one, managed. How did you manage money when you first started?
I managed it by spending it. I know that's so bad. And I
think that's most of us.
I was so bad. I would go out to expensive restaurants multiple times a week. And if I could talk to my younger self, I would slap her because I wouldn't even say anything. I wouldn't even say anything. That's how disappointed I am in myself. It was just, I would just go, oh gosh, the plate. I would go to the store and be like, oh, hey, this is really cute. And I'll buy this. And then I'll I wouldn't even really wear it that often, but I'd still buy it. Or just most of my money went to food because I used to go to, I lived in LA. I used to go to Beverly Hills a couple times a week.
Yeah,
I know. It's so bad.
Chicago's definitely not as expensive, but it was still the same thing even in my early 20s where I was just like, I'm getting paid. This is great. I've never made this much money before. And it wasn't that much money, but I was spending it all the time going to the newest restaurants and going to openings and things like that, where I had no business going to those things, but it was like everybody was doing it. And you're young and you're in a city and it's like, well, why not? When else am I going to do this? And it definitely, same. I would just want to go back and be like, Chloe, let's talk about investing. Let's talk about what you could be doing with this and how different your life would be if you were. So once you decided you wanted to become debt free and you started watching these people on YouTube, what was the first thing you did besides just watching them? Did you decide, okay, I'm going to do avalanche method, or I'm going to start a budget, or what was that process like for you?
I picked the snowball method. Well, first I paid off my credit cards. And then with my private student loans, I did the snowball method because that's what I feel like most people on YouTube do the snowball method. Yeah. So since they were mostly doing the snowball method, I was like, okay, I'll do the snowball method. And I wrote this all down in one of my journals, exactly what to do. So I was like, okay, well, if I pay an X amount of dollars every month, then I'll be finished with my private student loans at this age, right? But if I pay more, I'll be finished by this age. And I was trying to calculate that. And then I also started budgeting, and my budget was also in my journal. I tried to write down these people on YouTube have these amazing budget journals, and they're so beautiful with their pretty handwriting and they're highlighted marker and stuff and just all these colored pens. And I wish it was here with me. It was atrocious.
It's the Pinterest versus reality and trying to do a Pinterest thing.
Yeah. It's like that, or it's like it's like you see something cute on Alibaba. It's
Mm-hmm.
only $5 and you get it.
And it's completely
Completely
different.
different. So like, okay, yeah. And then what was difficult was actually writing stuff down in there or remembering to write stuff down. And so I was like, okay, well, it's not really accurate. And so then who was it? I saw someone on YouTube making videos on you need a budget, but then I started you need a budget, and that has worked for me. I live and swear by it.
So, what now are your money goals? What are you hoping to do over the next couple of years? And how are you planning to get there?
Okay, so I still have $39,000 of federal student loans.
That's amazing though. So you went from 100 to 39,000 in like 2 years.
Yeah, so I had what was it? I had some credit card debt, I had private student loan debt, and then I had federal student loan debt. So the credit card debt and the private debt, they're both gone. I finished the last private student loan debt was or last private student loan debt payment. I think it was in August or September of 2020.
Nice.
Yeah. And then with my federal loan, they're currently at 0%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'll be paying those off ASAP come September. I think it just depends on whether or not they extend the 0% interest rate right now. And I'm still on the fence. I do want to pay it off, but at the same time, I know that the interest rates are so low that if I were to put the money elsewhere,
You'd make more money.
I'd make more money, even if it's like a little, even if it's a little bit, it's still more money. So that it just all depends on how I feel once the 0% is gone. And everyone I talk to says like all different things.
Right. Because it's because it's personal. So it's like what your risk preference is going to be totally different to somebody else's risk preference. And it's like, for me, I'm in the same boat. I have about the same amount of debt, more or less. And it's at 3.54% interest rate. So I'm like, I'll invest. I'm fine with having $30,000 of debt. Like I'll pay that off and I'll just pay the minimum and, invest in real estate and index funds in the meantime. What else? What are your other goals? Are you looking to retire early? Are you looking to like meet a certain net worth or what's kind of those goals for you?
So I do want to retire early. I always say I want to reach like traditional FIRE by 40, which is in 11 years. I feel like it's so far away.
Exactly. You have plenty of time.
I think part of me, I guess my dream life, my dream fantasy world would be to always work on my hobbies, right? Because I'm like, okay, well, if I make if I'm able to do a hobby full time, then, it's not really work because I enjoy it, right? So that's whatever hobby I have come 11 years, I'll probably be doing that full time. But I want to reach FIRE just for the ease of, okay, well, if I didn't want to work anymore, then I'd be okay. And nothing would change. I'd still live in the house. Okay, so my short-term goals, I would like to max out my retirement account. So I'd like to max out my HSA. This is the first year I'll have an HSA. So
hey, me too. HSA buddies. Yeah.
So I want to max that out, and I also want to always max out my Roth. Max out my Roth IRA, and then I do want to max out my 401k as well. But that also depends because part of me wants to have real estate investment properties. I'm not sure if it's smarter to put the money in my 401k or do that yet.
So if you did go into rental properties and things like that, would you want to stay in Las Vegas and like team up with Graham Stephan?
Oh gosh, who was it? Someone commented because I moved from LA to Las Vegas the same time Graham did.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize it was the same time.
And I swear I moved there before he announced he was moving there.
That's
And
hilarious. Are you low-key stalking him?
Oh gosh, I swear I'm not. Yeah, and he yeah, people come to like, oh, you moved there at the same time Graham did. And they're like, oh,
That's
you should
funny.
collab. And I'm like, I don't think he wants to, like, I was like, I'm not big like the other YouTubers that he collabs with. Like, I highly doubt he's going to want to collab with a smaller channel.
Hey, you never know. You're growing pretty fast. And the fact that you're also in LA or Las Vegas and came from LA, never know. Never know. It's always a possibility. But would you want to, if you did invest in real estate, would you do it in Las Vegas?
I'm still unsure of where.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know where I want to end up.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and part of me, like, my favorite place will always be Southern California because I have family in San Diego and I have a lot of friends in LA, and I love LA and the beach, but it's just so expensive. Even like a property that's $1 million is still not. It's still not
like
enough.
No, yeah, it's definitely a hard place to get into with real estate, I feel like, but it does seem like Las Vegas is a better option. Are you trying to do anything particular with your work, or, you know, trying to increase your income by X amount every year, or things like that?
So with my work, I guess modeling, I'll keep those income streams. It's not steady month to month. I have months that are good and then months that are better. I'm just really lucky I'm able to do that. But I do, you know, I told you I wanted to retire in 11 years when I'm 40. So I don't see myself modeling when I'm 40. And so I always ask myself, I'm like, okay, what's next after modeling? Like, what am I going to do next? And I don't know. It might be finance, you know, my channel might grow. And I do hope, I feel like every small creator, like, they do it because they're really passionate about it. You know, in the back of their mind, they want their channel to grow. You know,
absolutely. Yeah. That's the dream.
Yeah.
You know, it's something that you love doing. And then if you love doing it and it ends up being something that also pays the bill, like, great. But, you know, it's like, you also do it because you love it. So it's like win-win either way, right? Mm-hmm. So what would your advice be to somebody who's just starting out, who's in the same position you were 2 years ago and was like, I'm $100,000 in debt. What the hell do I do? Like, what would be your piece of advice to them?
I would tell them that everything's going to be okay. I know. It's just, you just have to, I know that old me or past me would have really appreciated that, because money is a really sensitive topic, especially if you don't have money or you're in debt. You know, a lot of people don't like talking about that and they're really ashamed of it, but they shouldn't be ashamed of it. You know, even though, yeah, debt is bad, like, it's more common than you think. And you shouldn't be ashamed of being in this position because there are a lot of people who are in that position. So I tell them that, okay, well, you know, just, it's going to be okay. And then I'd probably tell that person that, okay, well, if you work really hard, then this is the worst it'll ever be, right? You just have to work hard to dig yourself out of that.
I think that's such a good point too. I think that with shame, especially, and with that, oh crap moment where you're looking at your finances for the first time and you're realizing either you don't know enough or you're scared because it's such an overwhelming number, like a Goliath, like you said. It's so easy to let that stop you from learning and deciding, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be debt free, because it seems impossible. It's like, well, this isn't possible, especially if you have a large debt to income ratio. And it's like, no, you can make steps in the right direction. And it's like, with that shame, taking that shame away makes it a whole lot easier to decide how, like, I'm going to do this. And like, I'm going to figure it out. People figure this out all the time. And, you know, I'm not going to let the shame stop me. So what are your top 3 favorite resources?
There are 2 resources on Reddit. I like the personal finance subreddit. They give a lot of general personal finance and, I guess, entertainment advice on there.
This is not financial advice. This is entertainment and educational purposes only. That standard disclaimer.
Yeah, there's a lot of financial information on there, which is great. And then my second one would be the financial independence subreddit. So those are people who are trying to reach FIRE. And there are all different types of FIRE on there. They have been very motivating. Because what I found on there is that a lot of people reach FIRE way before, like years before they had planned to reach it. And I think that's because they're so dedicated. And one of the things they always say are like, okay, the first like 100K is the most difficult 100K, right? But after you reach that, then you'll start to watch your portfolio grow faster. And just like tracking. Yeah. And they post their journeys on there, like being able to track their journeys are really great. And then my second one, I like reading. Yeah. So I've been like, I'll read maybe a book a month. This past couple months, I haven't read because I've been doing 2 videos a week, which takes up a lot of my time. But one of my favorite books is behind me.
Okay, perfect.
So this one, The Little Book of Common Sense Investing by John Bogle. So have you heard? Okay, so this guy was one of the founders of Vanguard.
Yes, yeah, I've seen a bunch of his YouTube videos.
He's great. And he explains in this book exactly why you should not pay the expensive 1% fees to, portfolio managers and how much that'll cost you in the long run. And he breaks it down like so easy. Like this was one of the first finance books I read. That was great. And then my third resource would be YouTube. And there are so many YouTubers that I really like watching.
Who are your favorite personal, like give me 3 favorite YouTube personal finance people?
I feel like this is one of everyone's favorites. I really like Graham Stephan.
Me too. I mean, same.
Yeah, he explains everything so easy and it feels like you're watching a friend, right? And I think I watch a lot of finance people and I'm not, so I'm not judging other finance YouTubers, but a lot of them, they're open about money and their finances and how they make money, which is great, right? I believe that you should always spread how you're making money and spread like your finances and what you're invested in so that, people could see that that's possible. But I feel like they have trouble trying to be personal.
I totally agree.
Which makes it so that they're unrelatable. So he's one of my favorite channels. Lately, I've been watching the Money Guy podcast.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
Oh, they're great.
Okay, I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, they have clips on. I haven't listened to their entire podcast. If they have clips on their YouTube channel, and they give out like good stats on like Americans and how bad it is.
Okay, totally gonna check that out.
Before I started my finance YouTube channel, I would only watch the big channels because those are the ones that would show up on search. But after I started my finance channel, and it's a really small channel, and I was able to find other small finance channels as well, who talk about like their budgets and their finances and paying off debt. And it's so nice. And I can't just pick one of them, but it's like a whole bunch of small finance channels that I could really relate to because I'm like, oh, these are just regular people like us, right? These are just like regular people making videos on finance. And so, I'm gonna watch this. And I feel like I have like a small community that no one knows about.
That's such a good feeling.
Yeah. I can't just pick one.
That's fine. You don't have to. I
Okay.
mean, do you want to shout out a couple or do you just want to leave it at that? Either way, it's fine.
Okay, I'll shout out a couple. So
Okay.
there's one I really like. Her name's Barlow Street. I have no idea how this woman looks, but she's a lawyer and she budgets on You Need a Budget.
Mm-hmm.
And what's great about her videos is that most of the budget videos I watch for You Need a Budget, their incomes are like low to moderate.
Mm-hmm.
This woman brings in like tens of thousands of dollars every month and she's like budgeting.
Oh my God,
Right?
I love that.
No, I love it so much. And you know how much money she spends on food? Like less than 200 a month. And I'm like, how are you doing this?
Oh my
I
gosh.
swear.
I feel so much shame. I spend that much. I don't bring in tens of thousands of dollars a month.
No, it's amazing. Like she spends like such little money on food. And she's always, one of the things I really like about her is that she donates a good portion of her money as well. Like she has a goal to donate.
Mm-hmm.
Like every year she's like, okay, I'm trying to hit this donation goal and I'm trying to do this while also maxing out all of her other accounts as well.
That's awesome. I'll have to check her out. I find that stuff when I see people who make a lot of money being really frugal, I feel like that's really inspiring and like it encourages me to be more frugal so that I can like reach my goals faster. So I'll have to check that one out. Xena, thank you so much for coming on today. Before we wrap up, will you tell everybody where they can find you?
You can find me at Xena Kai Finance on YouTube. You can also find me at Xena Kai Finance on Instagram and Xena Kai Finance on TikTok as well. And then my personal, I guess like my modeling ones is just Xena Kai.
Awesome. And we'll leave links to all of that down below so that you guys can go follow her on all the channels. But yeah, thank you so much for joining today. This was awesome. I'm so glad we got to talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Chloe.